Bruins Beat is brought to you by Prize Picks and the Game Time app.
And welcome into the Bruins Beat presented by Prize Picks. Go use that promo code CLNS to get $50 back when you play just $5 and we're presented by Game Time. Go use that promo code CLNS to get $20 off that first purchase. Terms apply. I am Evan Marinofski. That is Conor Ryan. Connor, what is up?
Evan, doing well. How you doing?
Doing great. Doing great. We're doing this on Bean Pot Monday. We're recording this Bean Pot Monday. Big day for you, not for me, but a big day for you. Your Terriers. Hopefully, I'm with you on this.
Number eight overall.
Number 8 Terriers. I want to see BUBC in the final. So, like, I'm kind of pulling for both teams today.
Listen, this is what always happens, though, Evan. Like, every year when they're both filthy, or like most of the times when they're both like number 1 and number 5, they match up in the first round and it sucks. And the game's always really good, but you're like, why couldn't we save this for the actual championship? When the stars do align, and then like 1, both teams are really good, and 2, if they just get to beat Northeastern and Harvard, they get to the finals. Usually that means something goes haywire.
Yep.
I don't know what's going to happen. Northeastern loves like playing the spoiler now. They always seem to like deliver on the bean pot. Harvard, like they're Harvard. They're happy to be there. Like they'll win every once in a while, but
they're pesky.
I don't know. I feel like we're not going to get the matchup everyone's looking for. It's going to be like
Northeastern Harvard.
Like, yeah, honestly, or it's going to be one of the two. Like Northeastern's probably better than Harvard, but like I can't see BC losing. But crazy things have happened, I guess.
They have, and I want to get into kind of a Bean Pot Bruins question later in the show. But first, Bruins get a win. Bruins got a nice win over the Rangers on Saturday. Beat him 6-3, primetime spot on ESPN or on ABC. You texted me something during this game that I think is true and I think is interesting. Because David Pastrnak puts up a hat trick. He is now on pace, by the way, for 98 points.
Yeah,
98 points. He's played in all 54 games thus far. I did a little math. Did a little proportions. Remember proportions? I did 65 over 54 equals N over 82. Remember doing that? Where you do the cross and you do all that? Well, I did that. I still it is where math has helped me when I can do on pace for
one of the few rare areas. Yeah, one
of the rare areas. 98 points. And you texted me this, not the 98 point part. I did that myself, but you texted me on Saturday and said Pastrnak should get Hart Trophy votes. Not saying he should win.
Yeah.
There are guys more deserving in the league. Like, we want to make that very clear. But I agree. I think he should get some votes. I'm not saying he's a candidate. I'm not saying go put money on David Pastrnak being the Hart Trophy winner. But I think he deserves some recognition.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. When you look at just the supporting cast around him, right? It's kind of the same as, you look at the NFL this year where like Lamar Jackson definitely has the better stats. But like Josh Allen, considering like he didn't have Diggs and had like kind of a completely new supporting cast and was still like just dragging them to wins a lot of the times. It's the same thing like that. Like it's a byproduct of who's around David Pastrnak out there. And when you look at just how, disjointed the entire forward core has been, to have Pastrnak still put up, hell, it's an accomplishment when he gets to be in a point per game, let alone if this guy cracks 100, which like the way he's playing recently, like very well could happen. What's he got now? Like 14 goals, 28 points in his last 15 games.
And incredible pace.
So how hard pressed this team is for offense. Like Pastrnak continues to kind of be that cheat code that you need out there. And I think the most impressive thing for him, and it's something I think we even saw last year when that was a better team, but he's not like a one-trick pony. We know that one time, or we know the skill that he has when he has the puck on his stick, but he's not just this guy that every year he's going to be a 40, 50 goal guy. You'll take it, but he can change his game and, adjust to whatever the opposing team is giving him. And a lot of the times, especially as of late, when you don't have the same established scoring options behind him on the depth chart, teams are going to key in on that one timer. They're going to try to, knock him off the puck, things like that. And he's changed his game to be kind of more of a facilitator. He can still finish chances. We've seen that countless times, but he's not kind of just, sticking to his strengths and, being frustrated. Even I think that we saw that early this year, he was getting kind of frustrated, but I think he's kind of figured out what he needs to do. And it's kind of be more of a facilitator. I think you've seen it it should be no surprise that the power play is starting to pick up. First time in months, right? I think I saw a stat there, like operating at 34% the last 5 games, which you will take. I don't think that's going to be a long-term thing, but why has it picked up as of late? It's because David Pastrnak is kind of being more of a facilitator. He's moving around a lot more. He's operating, below, around the net. He's operating up high. He's kind of changing where he is. And when teams can no longer be like, all right, we know how this passing is going to end with David Pastrnak, getting that one-timer. When you don't have that to lean on, you don't have that to game plan around, it makes the Bruins power play a lot more unpredictable. And like, if you have guys keying in on him and it leads to a backdoor opportunity for a guy like Zacha or a chance at the bumper with Lindholm, like it's opening up chances for this team. So I think you look at just how good Pastrnak has been stat wise, that's obvious, but I think it's the way he's playing that he's not, David Pastrnak of 2018-19 is different from David Pastrnak from 22-23, which is different from 24-25 Pastrnak. Like the numbers are impressive however way you want to look at it, but he's doing it in different ways. And hell, if this team just plummeted and got James Haggs and all of a sudden they got more talent around him the next couple of years, yeah, he's probably back to being a 55 goal guy. But to show that he can kind of adjust what he needs to do and produce, regardless of who's out there, shows you got a very, very special talent there in 88. He's the reason why you're even remotely in the playoff picture right now.
Don't tempt me with the James Haggs stuff. That's gonna.
Man, you plummet enough to get in the lottery.
When I was saying at the beginning of the year,
James Haggs may not even be number 1 right now. I've been he isn't. And that's not even like a knock on him. He's still been filthy. But there's that Schaefer kid for Canada, and
yep.
Is it Martone? Is that his last name? Porter or something? He's like a winger, I think, but he's lighting up wherever he is too. He's in the WHL. So I know Schaefer, I think, is now expected to be the number 1, but
is he the defenseman?
I'm just saying, yeah. So, I mean, you got a few other guys out there, so you never know. Bruins get a little lottery, and oh man, they finished 3rd overall.
We got to put out like a bad story on James Haggs to make him drop in the draft to like 13 or 14.
You just do the Luka thing. Be like, yeah, this dude keeps on going to Eagles Deli. That's all he does every single day. He's at the Eagles Deli.
Oh my God.
All I'm saying
he's
is
a regular in there. Biggest order every day.
Can you imagine if the Bruins somehow like the lottery gods fall their way, the fortunes fall their way, and they get like James Haggs at like 3rd overall? The numbers we would get off of that stupid episode early in the year were like, what if they trade for James Haggs?
What if they figured out a way to get him? They facilitated a way. Well, they've stunk enough.
Dude, we would flex for the entirety of his career, which like means he would probably get like traded like the 3rd year in for like a physical defenseman or something like that. But we would flex the entire time.
Oh, it would never stop. I would be throwing the James Haggs story I wrote last year in the New England Hockey for New England Hockey Journal. I would throw that around every day. I would tweet it every day. Yeah, I mean, this is the thing, and I think you hit it with every year, his evolution as a player, Pastrnak, not Haggs, Pastrnak has been fascinating because we saw this really change last year. Because last year, coming off a 60-goal season, and he becomes more of a playmaker based on who he's playing with. He's playing with Zacha. He's playing with Morgan Geekie. And ironically enough, he's back with those 2 guys this year. And it's back when he's with those guys, it's back to setting them up. And he gets the hat trick the other day against the Rangers. But like I saw Andrew Raycroft tweet this, and it hits at what you were talking about with the power play. And this is why Pastrnak is so much better moving around and getting in different spots. When McAvoy one-times that shot home on the power play, he's wide open. And the passing lane is wide open because the high forward is like on Pastrnak because they expect that pass to go back up for the one-timer. But it left the entire lane open, and it left McAvoy open to just rip one. And he did, and he scored. And like that, we've been saying this all year. Like that's what you need to do to be a successful power play. Pastrnak is an asset, not just as a hard shot or a goal scorer. He's an asset because you have to watch him. And when you're 4 guys, I'm not a math guy, when there's 4 guys out there, when there's 4 and they've got to worry about 5, that's already hard enough. But when you got to really worry about 1, someone or 2 people are going to be wide open. And that's what you've seen with Pastrnak. And I will he win the Hart Trophy? No, he won't. And I'm not saying you should. They're, Draisaitl, McKinnon. They're much more deserving. But his turnaround the last 2.5 months has been impressive. And that's why, you'll see it on Twitter every now and again. Trade Pastrnak. You got to trade Pastrnak. You need toughness. And you saw it actually on the second goal he had, the missile from right above the circle. He made the hit to free the puck up for Patra to get. I'm not saying that Pastrnak is some, physical force out there, but he holds his own. And, there are times when the Bruins have sunk this year where we're like, all right, would you consider trading a Pastrnak or a McAvoy? And usually it's no, you would never. I mean, we'll get into the Doncic stuff in a second and kind of just facilitate through and why it's not a good idea, obviously, for the Bruins to do something like that. But you see it, fans all upset with Pastrnak, and it's like the value he brings as a playmaker, as a goal scorer, right now it's firing on all cylinders at the moment. So he's been cooking with gas, as the kids would say. He has been cooking. As the kids say. I want to get into more on just sort of these next couple games, because this is a big stretch leading up to the Four Nations. But first, our friends over at Prize Picks. It's a big time of year. Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action with over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings. Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long over at Prize Picks, and the big game is almost here, and it's now or never. Don't miss out on the last football game of the season. With Prize Picks, the best place to win cash while watching the big game. Prize Picks is also giving away a free pick for the big game. It's Mahomes. Can Mahomes throw more than 1 yard? I think we know the answer to that. It's tough. It's a tough question. And so if you're correct on at least one more stat projection, you win some cold hard cash. Check out the promos tab to tail any of our super sweat milli winners. Big game lineups. If you tail a lineup that goes 3 for 3, you can win a split of $1 million in promo funds. So Prize Picks is the place to be this Sunday. That's for damn sure. Some of the other things, will Jalen Hurts pass for more than 215.5 yards? Will Travis Kelce have more than 62.5 receiving yards? Will Xavier Worthy have more than 56.5 receiving yards? And will Saquon rush for more than 112.5 yards? Going to be a big day. Definitely a big day. Hockey-wise, David Pastrnak, obvious answer. So download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the app, use code CLNS, get $50 instantly, play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. Run that game. 3-game stretch coming up before Four Nations begins. And Bruins, as of now, are tied with the Lightning, sitting outside the wild card, sitting outside of it. We are in agreement that they should be selling, retooling at the deadline. But is there anything the Bruins can do over these next 3 games that would make you think otherwise?
Win. I mean, that's the whole thing, right? Like, if you're able to end on a high note, yeah, that at least gives you more confidence. But I need to see it over a longer stretch here. Like, I think you got an opportunity here to at least get back in the playoff picture going into the break. And, Sacco said today on Monday that Hampus Lindholm's probably not going to be back before the Four Nations break, which makes sense. If you only got 3 games now, let him and have him ready to go there. Again, I think him coming back is a huge development for this team. I think he can help you in a lot of different areas, whether it's on power play, 5-on-5, just having another guy that can play 20 plus minutes a night. He's going to help, but it's all about building some sort of momentum. And we just have not remotely seen that this year. This team has been a complete Jekyll and Hyde in terms of the way they're playing, whether it's at 5-on-5, on special teams, all that stuff. Like, they played pretty well for most of that game against the Rangers, but what am I expecting on Tuesday against Minnesota? Yeah, they don't have Kaprizov. They're missing a few guys, but I couldn't tell you what's going to happen. Maybe they win. And you know what? If we were to record a podcast on Wednesday, Evan, and they beat Minnesota 4-1 or something like that, I would be like, all right, well, let's see what happens tonight when they play the Rangers, because we know how they are on the road. So if if they end this stretch, right, where they beat Minnesota, get smoked on the road to New York, and then beat a good Vegas team at home, okay. Like, it's not changing my opinion. I need to see it over a longer stretch. I need to see more guys step up. And again, if other guys continue to contribute, whether it's guys like Matt Poitras, who I think, what do you know? You put Matt Poitras with a skilled player like David Pastrnak, good things happen. But if it's stuff like that where those other, secondary pieces start, finding their game, if it's Jeremy Swayman starts stacking good performances, if the defense tightens up, you feel better about where you are, right? But like, I'm not making any sweeping, changes in terms of how I view this team unless they win like 8 of 10 or something like that. And again, you've got an opportunity
because you got to make up for all that inconsistency the first couple months.
And you've had multiple opportunities to put teams away already, like not the Oilers, the Ottawa. Like for the first couple of weeks after Ullmark was hurt, they were really kind of struggling to find their game. You had multiple chances to deliver a knockout punch there. Didn't do it. Ullmark's back, and they're playing well even without Ullmark right now. So that's kind of a scary team right now. You got an opportunity now with like Columbus with Marchenko. He's out for what, like 6+ weeks, broken jaw. So that's a huge loss for them. Like, you have had opportunities here to put some of these teams away, and they just cannot seem to kind of get out of their own way. So, listen, like, I still think that like you can be a competitive team and retool in terms of moving assets that aren't going to help you. Like, I don't think like moving Frederick is all of a sudden means you're going to plummet out of the playoff race or anything like that, right? Like, so you could do that and remain kind of competitive if other guys step up, and maybe that's kind of the best of both worlds. Maybe people can say that you're not doing enough in terms of embracing that retool, right? But the two things I don't want to have happen are standing pat and just letting kind of the season carry on, where maybe you get in, maybe you don't. But if you don't, and you haven't made any moves to accelerate this retool, then you've been wasting everyone's time. And I don't want them to buy short-term gains, right? Again, we talked about like JT Miller is someone that if you acquired him where he helps you for the next couple of years, it helps you out. That's not an option anymore. So I don't also want this team to win these next 3 games, come out of the break being in the playoff picture and then being like, you know what? We just need Jason Zucker. It's like, no, like, and again, Jason Zucker's had a good year, but like, that's not what you need for this team, especially going forward. Right. So, listen, I would love for this team to be playing in April. There's nothing better than playoff hockey, but like, you can't, usher in another potential short-term playoff run off of just a short-term gain like that. You either got to make moves, retool, and roll the dice. And I think if you do that and you get assets and you don't make it, I think fans would be like, well, at least you did some forward-thinking things. This whole year was a shit show anyway, so what can you do? You're behind the 8 ball way too much. If you do nothing or you make those marginal upgrades just to get in to play a couple games in April, I don't think that's the case either. So, I mean, again, like, I would love for this team to go on a run, but as we say, I think for like the last 3 months now, Evan, I will believe it when I see it. I would love for this team to go on a run here, but I need to see a lot more to change my opinion as to what this team should do and just how legit we should buy into this team making any sort of noise next couple of months.
I agree, and you're not going to see it in 3 games. You're not. It's too small of a sample size. I know they had a nice game on Saturday.
If they get their ass kicked the next 3 games, then that would further, I think, that would be much more clarity as far as,
that's my thing, is I am on the side of retool, and I agree with you. Like, if you did trade Frederick and a piece or 2 else, like, you're not going to plummet out. You're not bottoming out. You're not going to the bottom of the East. You're in the mix still. You're very much in the mix. But the idea of, they won 3 straight games going into 4 nations, time to buy. Like, I hate that. And I think that's a bad idea. The other thing, Detroit, we've said this for years now. When are Detroit and Ottawa, and we included Buffalo in this, that hasn't happened yet. But when are Detroit and Ottawa good at, when are you going to start to see the fruit that they've been planting? And you're seeing it this year because they're both above you in the standings at the moment. It's not by a lot, but they're above you as of Monday afternoon. So again, like, in a year where they are starting to pass you a bit, don't try to keep up by going out and buying. Try to recoup some assets. get some assets, get back in the second round, make a second round pick this year. And we saw what Mikael Granlund just went for, first round pick.
Yeah.
So like, again, and he's been great this year. He's produced well. But again, like I think you can get some legitimate draft capital and not give up a ton off your roster. And I just, again, there's nothing I could see over these next 3 games that could make me change that. I think it could only sort of enhance my belief of what they need to do. If they get their doors blown off the next 3 games, as you said, like, all right, it's a pretty easy decision. But my worry is they win these next 3 games and suddenly it's time to buy. Or as you said, stand pat. And again, if they win these next 3 and then win, as you said, like 7 of their next 11 or something, okay, cool. Like, all right, maybe they're turning a corner. But I haven't seen it yet with this team. I can't sit here and say, oh, this is the year. There's still a chance. I don't see it. I just don't see it. You know what I do see, though? Great deals over at our friends at Game Time. Game Time Picks is my thing. They make getting tickets for events even easier. Filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets to find the best value. Again, I like my all-in pricing, not blindsided by fees when I go to check out. I like my seat views, get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. I like my lowest price guarantee, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. And Game Time ticket coverage. Your tickets are guaranteed to be delivered on time, and your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. And again, I'm a sucker for flash deals. Again, like if I'm covering the bean pot tonight, but if I wasn't, I'd be like, I think I'm going to go. And Game Time could hook me up with some flash deals, which would be great. So download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Connor, what time is it?
Game time.
KOS. It's game time. KOS. I think that, what time is it? KOS. I think.
I hope so. I took Spanish in high school and you're calling me out now. So
I took Spanish in middle and high school, and then I took an intro to it class in college, and I actually got worse at Spanish throughout the class because it was like a beginner class. And so I ended up just going right down to that level as the class went along, which did not help me in the slightest. Big news over the weekend, the Luka Dončić trade. You texted in, you and Ty were like, did Shams get hacked? And I'm like, oh God, like what could he have tweeted? And turns out it was actually not hacked. It was a real piece of news that Luka Dončić, a top 3 player in the NBA, was traded. And the NBA continues to be such an entertaining league when it comes to off the court stuff because they make these massive trades and they don't have no movement clauses. I mean, again, a Luka Doncic in the NHL would have a no move clause, or have to waive it to get moved anywhere, and would hear about it, and there'd be rumors because he'd have to waive that. But let's just play this game. Is there a Doncic-like trade the Bruins could look to make?
Well, they did trade Joe Thornton for like Marco Sturm, and
that's
kind of like
trade.
Yeah. And again, that one, like, again, you look at the actual assets being moved and it did not equate, right? You could also make the case.
Future Bruins head coach Marco Sturm, though, went back to the Bruins.
That's
in the deal,
true.
So there you go.
That is true. And they got some pieces, but not for what obviously Joe Thornton is and was. But you could also look at that one and be like, all right, that was also part of the fiscal chess match, right? Of like freeing up the money to then sign Chara and Savad. So there was something that if you read, went through the tea leaves, you could see where you could make the case the Bruins still made the most of that opportunity. But in terms of just asset for asset, no, was not a great one. In terms of right now, it would be like, geez, I would have to think. It's like David Pastrnak for like Brock Besser and a first and like a prospect, right? Like in terms of like a legit top 10 player, right? Like against a few other assets. Like, I mean, the Luka Doncic trade is so nutty that I can't think of like the actual NBA one. I saw a good MLB one where it was like
the Mookie Betts trade.
Well, there was that, but it's like trading. I guess that is probably the most accurate one. I saw one that was like trading like 27-year-old Shohei Ohtani for like 32-year-old Manny Machado. And I'm like, damn, that's actually a pretty good one. Like, it's like a good player you get back, but
That's a good
It's not
one.
a generational talent. The Mookie Betts one is actually horrifyingly true. So
It's unfortunately true. I would, if it was to NHL terms, Pastrnak's 28, Doncic is 25.
5.
So that's tough because it's not totally comparable, but like, let's just do that for the sake of argument. How old is Nikita Kucherov?
30.
Kucherov is 31, which is AD's age. So I think, like, if we're doing no Bruins, it would be like a Quinn Hughes or a Cale Makar for Nikita Kucherov type trade.
Yeah.
That's what it would be. Because Cale, I think Cale's my age. So he's 25. So Cale is a generational player, and dealing him for a really good vet or a guy who's getting older. And that's AD. Maybe Kucherov's better.
I think Kucherov's better. It would be like Quinn Hughes. It'd be funny because they're obviously just recently played. But let's say, for the sake of argument, it'd be like Quinn Hughes or Cale Makar. Cale Makar for JT Miller and like a third line, like 28-year-old player.
That's a good one. That actually might be it. That's
what it is. A good player, guy that had a 100-point season, but like not Cale Makar, not a generational, like Anthony Davis is a Hall of Famer.
And he's much older.
Yeah, and he's much older.
Much older.
Like Luka Dončić is going to average 38 and 8 for the next freaking 10 years. So
yeah, I think if you're the Bruins, you want to be the Lakers in this trade. You want to go get the you want to give up, let's look at the other side. Who would be the AD of the Bruins to give up in a trade like that? And for people who are like, oh, this isn't hockey, this is one of the biggest sports trades ever. Complete surprise, a huge story that I think is fascinating. So we're going to talk about it.
Probably the Bruins don't really have like slightly over the hill like star player, right? Like it's not like they have like 33-year-old like at like 31 though. Like
no, they don't. You're right. My thought would be Marchand, but that's 36. So
it would be like if it was like Marchand at like 30, 31, 32 when he's still like what? He had a 100-point season when he was 30, 31. So that would make sense from the 18-19 season. But what it would be something like that, like Makar for a Famila and a 2029 first and like Jack Drury. I was like put Jack Drury in any trade now because I was like, what the hell is he doing in that deal? Goes everywhere. Yeah. That would be the deal. That would be the deal because Kucherov is better than AD. Across sports there, but yes. So there we go. That's our little Luka Doncic minute. Friggin' Lakers. Exactly. Beanpot wise, I have this idea, and I've had this idea for a while. Obviously, the NBA does a midseason tournament. Doing a lot of NBA today. But BU's goalie coach, Brian DeCord, brought this up to me at a Beanpot either last year or the year before. The idea of an NHL midseason tournament. Could that work? Would it make sense? I think the Bruins would have no shortage of good teams to play. I have an idea. 1 week a year, especially like now, where it's kind of boring, but it's dog days. You need to freshen things up. It's better than an all-star game or like Four Nations is coming, but bear with me. I go with you put teams in groups of 4 because there's 32 teams now. Yes. So you'll have 8 groups of 4. Math coming up big again. You do the Bruins, the Leafs, Canadians, and the Rangers because the Bruins, the NHL is going to want this to be one of the premier ones. The most toxic group ever. Add the Flyers and make it a little more toxic. That was like someone did like a thing where they wanted to realign the MLB division. It's like we should have an AL East, but it's the Red Sox, Yankees, Mets, and Phillies. I'm like the most sicko fan bases ever. Like no, you couldn't go to a game as an opposing fan. Yeah, like that you would get killed. Yes. I like this. Every 4 years, you transit. Every year you go to a different place. So like this year's in Boston, the next year's in Montreal, the next year's in Toronto, Manchester, New Hampshire. Yeah, that's right. Put it in Manch Vegas, baby, and then it resets. So it's every 4 years. Your team gets it. It's a big deal. You do it all around the league. It's 1 week. Every team plays every team, and then you do a championship, sort of based on points and things like that. The games count towards the regular season. It boosts rivalries. You get, they're intense. They're on national TV. They're streamed. I like that idea. I like that. And you don't need you have the history there with those 4 teams. I imagine you have like Tampa, Florida, Carolina, and like Nashville, which again, like
Tampa, Florida, and Carolina have legit history. So like, they're in the same conference. I guess throw Nashville in there too. You can do these all over. And make them really interesting and make them fun. And I think, again, it doesn't have the history of the Beanpot, but I do like the idea of a midseason tournament where you boost rivalries. We talk about this all the time with the schedule, where it's like, oh, I got to play the Ducks twice a year. And that's, that goes in place of potentially playing the Leafs or something like that. This helps with that. And this builds rivalries. I love this idea.
Yeah. Or also you might break down to like an original 6 tournament. You got like maybe like a Sun Belt tournament or something like that. Unfortunately, Arizona's now out of the picture, but like some teams like that, or Sun Belt plus like Florida and stuff, like you can kind of break it up by like region, history, stuff like that. It would make it, again, it is the NHL. So, they feel like they don't think of these ideas until like it's way past the fact, but it would be fun to add that kind of, unique kind of angle, add some, intrigue in the middle of the season. Like, I'm not a huge fan of like the NBA tournament, but I feel like I like the concept of doing something to break up the monotony. That's why, like, even though people talk about the Winter Classic being tired, or like the Stadium Series, I'm like, give me something in the middle of the year that I can look in, and especially if like the Bruins are in it, obviously, can circle on the calendar, be like, oh, that's something to look forward to. Like, like even who knows what the Bruins are going to be next year. I think they will be better, but regardless, like I've got February 1st in Tampa outside circled on the calendar. That should be a fun game. Like,
traveling
anything like
yeah,
and anything like that can kind of break up 82 games, especially, is good in my book. So I think something like that, whether it's region, original 6, I feel like the NHL wouldn't do that because I think they're so hyper aware of not excluding like all these new teams. But again, then have it be like the newer teams like Vegas and like the new bunch are out west, like a Western Cup and like a original 6, like a Sun Belt, something like that. I think it'd be fun. It something that just give us something else to look forward to. I'm all for like having 4 or 5 things in the middle of the season to break things up, like a Europe trip for some teams, like a Winter Classic Stadium Series tournament, anything like that. That's not just kind of the same old song and dance, because man, we're swimming against the tide right now, Evan, in terms of this season. Like, I feel like we were just in limbo between like waiting for the Bruins to do something. Yeah. But especially this year, it's like we are just waiting for a move to be made, whether it's acquiring someone, moving guys out. We're kind of just there treading water, seeing where they're at, and we're just kind of waiting for something to happen. So
it would be like it's a lime and a Corona. It's a Trader Joe's chocolate chip ice cream sandwich at the end of the day. Like, it's just something to spice things up a little
4
bit.
of them.
That's right. Yeah, the whole fucking box. Or again, like, you can change the teams every year if you want to create new rivalries or do something different. Ottawa, right? Ottawa's in this area as well. Get them in. Like, there are ways you can freshen things up. I think my thing with the NBA in-season tournament, I'm not as up on it as I am with NHL stuff, obviously, but isn't that kind of like sprinkled in over the course of the year? Like different game, like that's too much. Do 1 week, market the hell out of it. 1 week, the tournament, tournaments all over the country. Also, these players grow up going to showcases, going to tournaments. They're used to these style of things. So like,
They should have like a tournament and have like the final be like, they never would because they would lose money, but like the final should be like a cool outdoor venue. Like, save like the final game for like a Tahoe or like Lake Louise or something like that. That'd be sick. They wouldn't do it because they wouldn't make money, but like something like that makes it stand out. It's like the one thing I do like about the NBA tournament. I can't follow it because I can't do math. I'm like you, Evan, of like how it all works for the points and everything, the point differentials, all those things. The Bruins would be screwed. They had to do a goal differential to get into the playoffs. but that would be something that, like, at least they end it in a different place, like in Vegas. Like, Vegas doesn't have a team yet, but it's a different venue, different scenery, stuff like that. So like the NHL had a tournament like that, and it went somewhere different and unique, like Manch Vegas or an outdoor venue. Like, it'd be cool, it'd be interesting. I'm all for the NHL trying things differently. People look at like, why the hell are they going to Florida? Let's see it. Who cares? Like,
I'm for it.
They got wizards working the ice down there. They'll be fine. Like, they're not going to be swimming. They're not going to have scuba gear as they're out there. So I'm all for anything that makes it different and unique. So
yeah, I'm for it. I am for it. So yeah, give me a Beanpot style tournaments. You had 32 teams, 8 different ones, 1 week. They're all playing each other. I think that'd be great. Or you could even just keep going on this. We're thinking out loud here. This is how ideas. This is how great ideas come to fruition.
Gary Bettman's listening in right now.
He's tuned in. What if there was 1 a week? What if there was 1 a week for 8 weeks? Every week was there was a different tournament going on. Not saying you stop the season for it, but like, LA, Anaheim, San Jose, and Seattle, let's just say off the top, right? Those 4 spend a week at one venue doing that. And every other team's still playing the regular schedule, but those 4 teams doing it that week. It's a reason to watch.
They should have like a Utah Cup, and the winning team gets to decide what the name of the Utah team is.
That's right. Yeah, they could use that. They're running into stop signs everywhere trying to find a team name for that. Anyways, Connor, I think we've done a lot of innovation today. Last week we were angry. This week we're thinking bigger.
Yes.
Connor, what can people look forward to from you over at the Globe and Boston.com?
Yeah, you can read me over Boston.com and the Boston Globe. We'll have you covered every step of the way this Bruins season with recaps, features, columns, breakdowns, all that good stuff. You can also follow me on Twitter, X at Conor Ryan _93.
Go do all that. That's Conor Ryan. I'm Evan Marinofski. Bruins Beat listeners, have a great rest of your week.